Hello friends, welcome back. We are learning structures and class. So in this class we are going to proceed one step further. Now let me explain here. What actually we are going to learn in this class is methods. How methods are useful. How do you create methods? Already you know how do you create methods. You have worked with methods, right? Different types of methods: pass by value, pass by parameter, pass by reference, pass by out. Different types of parameter passing mechanisms you have seen. We have seen default values, params, how do we pass arrays. Now we are going to get few important informations about methods in this class, and some other informations too. Let us take an example of a class called point that we have created till now, and we have written here public. Just two components of it are float x and float y, right? Two variables, and we have seen that by default the class members are private, structure members also private. If I have to use x and y, some other block, right, I have to make them public, so I make them public here. Now I have two methods, two fields, x and y. I can create a point p1 is equal to new point, and then I can say p1 dot x. I can assign the value to it 10, then p1 dot y is equal to 20. I can assign values, and even I can say debug dot log display p1 dot x value and debug dot log display p1 dot y value. We can display on the screen. If I save, come back to Unity, okay, we don't have any error message. If I run the code, you can see that 10 and 20 displayed. The important thing you need to note here is you should not make your members, you should not make the fields to be accessible in another blocks directly. Directly means writing the name of the instance, putting a dot, writing the name of the field. It's not a good way. According to the object-oriented concept, your data must and should be protected. That means you have your data members or data or a field, right? Data members. I told you there are two different members you will be having, data members and member methods. Data members are fields, right? The member methods, we come to methods. Your data members must and should be protected. They must and should be protected from the outside world. Okay, this is our outside world. They should be protected. They should not be directly accessible to the outside world. You have to wrap them inside the method. So here you will be having method 1, maybe method 2, I can say. You can have method 2, you can have method 3. Your members must be protected, or must and should be protected, you can say. Method 1. If any outside world wants to access these data members, they must and should have to pass through these data members and get back the value from the methods only. If you want to set the value to the data member, you have to go through the method. If you want to get the value of a data member, you have to get them through the methods. How do we do that one? Okay, to do that, if I have to set the value or get the value, we will be using two types of methods. These are known as getters and setters. Getter is the one which returns the value, setter is the one which sets the value or which writes the data to the data member. Let us understand, you get an idea. So how do we create a setter and getter for x and y? You can use the method syntax, you know already. First, public. Of course, the getters and setters should be public so that they can be accessible in any other blocks. Public. And you can read what is public means. You can read public means the public keyword is an access modifier, okay, modifier for types and type members. Public access is the most permissive access level. There are no restrictions on accessing public members. There is no restriction. You can access them anywhere you want. Whereas if it is a private, okay, you can see what is private. Private keyword is a member access modifier. Of course, it is an access modifier. Private access is the least permissive access level. Private members are accessible only within the body of the class or the struct in which they are declared. Okay, they are accessible only within the body of the class or a structure. Body means this whole block, right? This is the body of the class. Now here I am making public, and it is a setter, so it is not going to return anything back, and the name of this method is going to be x or set x. I say set x. Set x method takes one value that is going to be used to set the x to it. Now here I can say this dot x equal to x, this dot y. Oh, come on. Only one value we have to set, not more than one. And here we are getting the value. I copy that value, I pass over here. This dot x equals to value, the value you get, and assign it to x. Then you are going to create a public float which returns the value back. So get x is a function which is going to return back the value of return this dot x value. If I make this private, I have to make them private so that they cannot be accessible to the outside world. These two are private. Of course, we should get an error message in this place that x and y you cannot use, so they are inaccessible to the outside world because they are private. Point.x is inaccessible due to its protection level. So private has the least protection level. You cannot access like this. That is good. Now we have created a setter and getter for the x. We can create the setter and getter for the y also. So how do we create for y? I think you know already. Public void set y is a method which takes a float value from us and sets this dot y is equal to value you are going to set, and you are going to return public float get y is a method which is going to return this dot y is going to be returned back to us. Of course, we can have a default constructor. I can keep here public default constructor, and there I am going to mention this dot x equal to 0 and this dot y equal to 0. Okay, this is the way how you are going to create the setter and getter methods. These are methods. Soon we will be coming to the properties. Okay, we get the idea. Now you have these setters and getters available. Okay, you can use them to set the values. p1.setX is a function which helps you to set the x. So I can set the x, you can pass the value to it. I pass the value 10.0f. Then I can set the y also. p1.setY. I can use the function and I can pass the value 20.0f. And I can get the values and display debug.log. Here I am going to say p1.getY. You can see it is a method, so you have to call that method. Then I can say debug.log p1.getY method I am going to call. Oh, this one I have to call getX and this one is getY. So very simple. I can just save this code and come back to Unity. You won't be having any error message. And if I run the code, you get the result 10 and 20. Okay, I hope you guys have understood how we create the getters and setters and how do we use them. Now the major thing we are going to know here is we are going to understand this code. Okay, we are going to get how these code are working. so that the same thing applies in every other methods. This is a code that we have. Let me copy this from here and come to MS Paint and let me paste the code. Okay, here we have the code. Now we can understand how this code is working in the class. Of course, I think you will understand yourself with the structures also. Let us start. We know that the control will come to this place. Okay, control is going to execute the start method first, point p1 equal to new point. So first of all, I am going to create here the stack and the heap so that you get an idea how the code is working. We know that what happens here, first point p1 will be created. As it is a reference type, we know that first start is on top of the stack, start method is on top of the stack, and here I create one new memory block for the point. So this is our p1 and it is having some address, that's okay. Then after that we know that the new keyword is going to get executed. What new keyword will do? It will create a new memory block of type point on the heap. So we are going to create a new memory block which is going to have two memory areas, one for x, one for y, because we have only two fields, x and y fields. And let us take its address is #10 and these two are initialized to 0. After that the control is going to execute point constructor, and we know that we will be passing one extra parameter, that is an address of newly created memory location. #10 is the newly created memory location. We pass that and we know that the control is going to jump from here to that constructor, that is our default constructor, and we know that it has one extra parameter that is named as this, right? And it is going to have a return type point. Here you are having a return type point which is a reference type, and here you are going to have a statement return this at the end. What happens here, as we are passing #10 is going to copy in the this variable. Now on top of the stack you have the point constructor. You have the point constructor and it has one variable called as this, and this is a reference type, so that is of type point. So class, right? So this is a reference type and this is your variable this, and we are sending #10. That #10 will get stored over here, and once you store the address, the this is going to start pointing to that memory location. After that the control is going to execute the inner statement one by one. This dot x equal to 0, this dot y equal to 0, then return this. As it is a reference type, it will return the address or the value inside this variable or address of the memory location it is pointing. So #10 will be returned back. Okay, so once the control comes back, here this place is going to replace by the value #10 semicolon you have there. And of course once you come back, you will not be having the point on top of the stack, the point constructor on top of the stack will not be having this. Then what happens here, #10 will be assigned to p1. So p1 is now, it is not null, it is going to have #10, and we know that once you store the address, it will start pointing to that memory block. Now we have created a p1. By using the constructor, you have created a point. If you want to make modification at any time later, now you are going to take the help of the accessors methods. So first method we are using is setX method. Now let me explain how the code looks behind the scene. It is going to look something like this, guys. p1.setX, you are calling the function setX, and you are passing the value 10.0f. But remember that you will be always passing one extra parameter. In this case, the p1 itself. That means you are going to tell to the system that you want to set x, but you should also tell to the system that to which object you are modifying. I am modifying the object p1, so you are passing one extra parameter, that is the object with which you are working. that is P1 is having the address. Actually you are passing the address here, P1 having the value #10. You can say P1, or you can say here P1 is hash 10, right? That is P1, that is the value inside. As it is a reference type, of course it should return the address, right? It should replace this place address. So you are passing either P1 I say or #10 I can say. So now what happens, the control will move to the setX function. So it goes to the setX function, you can see that. Now the setX function is going to be on top of the stack now. So setX function is going to be on top of the stack, setX method. And of course you have one variable called as a value, okay, that is a float variable, that is the value, good. Now you can see it is a value type. Of course once you come back it will not be available, and one more extra parameter you will be having, and that is the variable this itself, point this. You are going to have one extra parameter this, which is of the same type, the class type, the data structure you are using, and as it is a reference type, of course it is going to hold the address. So here I create another one memory location for this. As we are passing 10.0f, that will get stored in the value 10, and we are passing the #10, that is the address of the P1. So the P1 we want to modify, that is the reason we are passing there, or behind the scene the control pass itself. So this is going to have #10. Now the setX method knows which variable to which memory location or which instance to modify. And one thing you need to note here is this is always going to point to the currently working object with which you are working, okay, that is good. After that the control is going to execute one by one inner statements, this dot x equal to value. So you are telling this dot x should be the value. So value has 10, 10 will be assigned to x member. So x is going to become 10, and it is having the return type void, so you are not returning anything back. Once you execute all the statements, the control will come back. You should see that here they are created and removed. That is the important part to observe. Once you understand these things later, you need not to worry about. Automatically you will start writing the code. Now you can see we have set the value x to P1. Okay. Next statement we are going to execute now. After executing that, we are executing this statement. P1 dot set y. I think you can say me what is the code behind the scene, guys. Can you tell me yourself? You are having here P1 dot set y, and you are passing the value 20.0f, and you should remember that you will be passing always one extra parameter, that is the address of P1 itself. I can say here #10, or I can say P1, okay, because P1 is actually #10. Now what happens, we know that the control is going to jump to that place. So control is going to jump to the set y function, okay, that is here only. It is going to jump to set y function. Now the set y is going to be on top of the stack this time. So I just draw here a bar, and I can say here you have the function set y on top of the stack, and of course it is going to have one extra parameter, right, that is point this. And remember that this variable is available in every constructor and every non-static methods. These are not static methods. You can see I have not written anywhere static keyword, I have not used. So they are non-static methods or instance methods we say. You have two memory locations, one for value and one for this. So here you have the value memory, and here you have the this memory. As we are passing 20 will get stored in the value, and P1, that is #10, will get stored in the this variable. You can see that #10 is the currently working object, and this is going to point or indicate the current instance. After that, we know that the inner statements are going to get executed. This dot y equal to value. So you are telling this dot y should be the value. So y is going to become 20. You can see that you have set the value y. That is good. As it is not returning anything back, just the control will come back as it is. And once you come back, you are not going to have this on top of the stack. Now after that, you are executing the next statement, that is debug.log. And debug.log is going to look something like this, guys. And I can just write the syntax for you. Debug.log. And here you are calling p1.getX. And remember that you are going to pass one extra parameter, that is the p1 itself. The p1 is #10. So I can write p1 here, or I can write #10 also. There is no problem in that. This is how it looks, guys. And we know that always the inner method is going to get execute first, right? The inner method is going to get execute. So getX function is going to be called. So what happens here is the inner function getX is going to be called first. So the control will jump to the getX function. Now what getX function is going to have? It is going to have one extra parameter, that is the this variable, right? So here I write point this, and it is going to be on top of the stack now. So you are going to have getX function on top of the stack, getX function, and it is going to have one variable called as this. There is only one memory location, so this is going to be a memory location. And as we are passing the p1, that is the value inside the p1, that is the address of the p1, you can say. The p1 means, you can think this instance, okay? So p1 is going to be stored over here, #10. So once you store the value, it will start pointing to that memory location. This is going to point, right? Next, the inner statements are going to get executed. What you are telling? Return this dot x. Return this dot x. So 10 is going to be returned back. Okay. So here the value is going to be returned back in this place. So float it is returning, you can see. So 10 it will return back, and this place is going to be replaced. This place is going to be replaced by the value 10, and debug.log function is going to display that 10 on the screen. So once you come back, you are not going to have getX on top of the stack now. So this is the way how you set the value and get the value, guys. Okay. We are going to execute the next statement. Let us take, that is debug.log p1.getY, and p1.getY may look something like this. It is going to be something like this. Debug.log, you are going to have p1.getY, and you will be passing p1 itself. This is how it looks. Maybe I use the darker color, green color, I check. Yeah. So you can see this is how it called. Now what happens? First the inner function is going to be called. So you are calling p1.getY with p1. So it is going to call the getY function, and of course it is going to have one extra parameter which is of the same type as the data structure is this. So as it is a reference type, now you are going to have getY on top of the stack. GetY is on top of the stack, and it is having one variable called as this. So you are going to have the memory location for that, this variable. And as you are passing the p1, that is the address at the p1 is pointing, that is #10, or the value inside p1, you can say. So it is going to have #10, you can see that. And now it is going to point that memory location. And next it is going to return this dot y, that is a float it is returning. This dot y is 20. So what happens here? The control will return back to us the value 20 in this place. So this place is going to be replaced by the value 20, and debug.log will display 20 on the screen. And once you come back, of course you are not going to have the getX function is not on top of the stack, and this is how the memory looks now. That is the current status of our stack and heap. So guys, I hope you guys have clearly understood how it works and what is the importance of this. And one thing you need to remember is this is going to point to the currently working object, and what you pass is an important thing. Okay guys, I hope you guys have clearly understood how this code working, what the function syntaxes look behind the scene and how they work. Okay, so in the next class we are going to get some other information. Okay, we are going to learn how the same thing works with the structures, so that we can understand the difference between both. And you can try for other classes. Okay, vector2 class we have created, rectangle class we have created. You can try there yourself. Thank you guys, thank you very much. See you in the next tutorial. Keep learning, keep coding.